Welcome to the Impact Talks podcast from Simarama. My name is Evy Bjorn. I'm a filmmaker and producer, and I've worked with Indigenous communities as a personal passion project of myself. And today we have Ricardo Russo, the filmmaker of The Well, with us to discuss his film.
Hello, good morning. Hello to everybody.
So Ricardo, what motivated you to make this film in the first place?
Good. Thank you for inviting me. I am happy to stay with you and have a talk. Yes, what motivated me? This project started in year 2008, and in Italy it was starting to grow this big debate about what to do with the water resource. We had a very tough period with our government that was trying to push all the administrations and the communities to privatize the water supply. So in the meantime, it born a social movement that wanted to defend the public ownership of the water. So in this period of big debate, we were looking for a story that could help our society to think about what to do with water. What is really water? Should water be a right for people, a universal human right, or should water be a god for the markets, no, to be sold and bought? So looking around, we by chance we arrived to know this Borana pastoral tribe in the Horn of Africa in southern Ethiopia, and we discovered that they had an amazing policy, a water management system that is really fascinating for us for many reasons. Mainly because they, this is a place where water is a really a treasure. Is a dry land where people and animal can starve for the drought. No? So in this place, who control the water could be very rich, very important. But they have this centenary rule, traditional rule, that states that nobody can hold the water. But water must be shared within the people, even within the other tribes. And this is very unusual, because usually pastoral tribe, they fight. And also Borana fight with the other tribes around. But talking about water, they decided that nobody can prevent anybody else to use the water. So, yeah.
Can you describe for me a little bit about this system and the confee system in the film? They talked about the confee and how the elders decide. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so this is, imagine that the tribe is divided by clan, and each clan use a water well. No? So there is a person of the clan that is responsible for this well, and this responsibility is passed by grandfather to father and by father to son. So there is a family that has this responsibility of take care of the water, but they don't have the power. They don't have they don't own the water. So within the clan, there are several figures that split time by time, no? And there is a man that is managing the entrance and the going out from the well, and there are people that are in charge for the clean, and people that are in charge to build the fence to control the water. But to understand how the well works, this kind of well must be seen,
Mhm.
because this is not. That's why we decided to make a film instead of doing something else, because this place is really an open air scenography that is amazing, because these wells are very huge,
Okay.
huge craters that need tens and tens of people to work inside, to collect the water, to share the water. In fact, the water is about 40 or 60 meters above the land, and there is a huge entrance, like a crater where animals go and up and down. But then there is a human chain of people that go down and to the bottom, and they pass the buckets singing. That's why they call the singing wells.
What are the songs that they're singing? Because it's so the imagery is so beautiful and the music is so beautiful. You know, when it's and the man in the film says that the song has the same rhythm as the buckets, the way the buckets move. So can you explain a little bit more about what the songs mean and how the songs are used?
Yeah, the song is kind of other typology of working songs. No, they are mostly improvised. So there is somebody that leads the singing and try to invent stories, and usually these stories tells about the herders that are coming with their animals. So they make many jokes. Usually is something funny about people arriving to carry the water.
Okay.
But yes, then because it gives the rhythm to the work of people. So sometimes it's important because they are very tired.
Yeah.
So it's important to give them some energy with the rhythm, the singing, and is amazing. Is also amazing the sound effect
Yeah.
that it makes, because it's expanded in the air. Also, because when you arrive, I imagine to be an animal that go to drink in these wells after many days of drought.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
So you don't see anything, because everything is under the earth, but they can listen to the singing from far, so they understand that they are arriving to the water. And I think this is also useful for them to calm down,
So
because they
it's like a rhythm for the animals as well.
yeah, also because they need to wait a lot. If you see in the film, there are the shifts.
Yeah,
And
I love that imagery of like first it's the horses and then it's
yeah,
the calves and the women and the camels at the end. It's so beautiful.
yeah, and especially the camel, they have to wait a lot.
Yeah,
So I think,
they have
yeah, I think,
less storage of water. It's camels.
yeah.
Also, so what in your takeaway of being with the Borana for all that time and like just how long did you film and what was the process of filming?
It was very long, because unfortunately, during our work, it started a war between Borana and another tribe that is it lives close to the Borana area, and it was very bad, and it blocked us for 1 year. So at the beginning, we went there and we started to meet these people, to have conversation with the assembly of the elders,
Okay.
because everything must be. This is kind of horizontal decision making community, no? So the elders, they need to discuss and take decision about what to do.
What was that like to observe?
Was very interesting, because at the beginning, when we arrived, they were quite detached.
Okay.
No, they couldn't say welcome or not. They couldn't say yes or not. No, they wanted to collect information about our project.
Mm-hmm.
Then they took a couple of days time to meet. Also, because imagine this kind of pastoral society is made of little groups spread in a very big area.
Yeah.
So they need to meet, walking from very far. They need one day just to send the message to everybody. Then people must come, they have the meeting, and so they can tell us. And they were sitting under a big tree. And then they decided to join this project also because I think, traditional pastoralist culture is verbal, is not written. No? So I think they didn't know exactly what does it mean to make a film, a documentary.
Okay.
But they understood that because of our many questions about how does it work in their tradition, no? They thought that it could be very useful not only for the foreigners to know, but also to let something for the new generation of Borana people.
Like a
Because,
preservation of culture.
yeah, because nothing is written about their culture.
Yeah.
And everything is changing very fast.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the elderly man, at the end he was talking about how money is sort of coming into play with the younger generations, and that also like the motor pumped well. There's one motor pumped well, and if the singing wells disappear and they all become motor pumped, then the Borana culture completely disappears because everything is circulated around the singing wells. Am I correct?
Yeah, it gives you the not weakness, because it's not a weak culture at all, but it's a very sensitive equilibrium. No,
I mean, it's what was your like your personal take on seeing how the influence of modern society can so negatively impact, even though you think we're helping this culture by giving them a motor pumped well, like it's actually having the opposite effect. What was your point of view on that?
Yeah, this is a demonstration for me, because I already had this kind of worry, no, about what does it mean to go bringing money, helping people that you don't really know. No, I was already a bit scared about dealing with this kind of issue, but then this was a big demonstration they give me. um, I mean, sometimes they told me sometimes Western people doesn't look for problem to be solved. They look for solutions. I mean, sorry, because in English is so it's not, sorry, is not problems looking for solutions, but is solutions looking for problems. You know,
Okay. So
I
like
mean,
it's sort of like I mean, I personally feel like Western culture has a way of feeling like we know better. Like we're like, oh, we can fix everything. We know what to do. And I think indigenous communities, they've been, using these systems for generations and generations and generations, and it's so integrated in their culture. We're actually, destroying their culture by the simple fact of like putting a pump in a well, which we think is like so efficient, is actually annihilating a whole culture.
yeah, they told me about something that happened a few years ago. That it came an organization, and they started excavating wells in a lowland.
Okay.
So these wells started to collect a lot of water from the highland, and all the wells excavated by indigenous people on the islands,
Yeah.
they completely lost all the water.
Oh, because they all went to the other
You
wells.
know, so this was, they told me that. So this was also very illuminating, no? Because they actually also, if you see the well, the film, no,
Yeah.
you understand that it's not water what they need, because they already have it. But still, anytime we show the well, after the screening, we spend time talking with people, and there's always somebody that is very worried, because how can we help these people getting more water?
Okay.
But if you see, it's not water what they need, because they have it. No.
It's like the system, right?
Yeah, yeah. Their problem actually is the lack of grass,
Okay. Oh, because
because
for the
because
livestock,
there's
the
no
livestock
rain.
to eat the
No.
grass. Yeah.
But the water to drink, they have, it's plenty of that. So yeah, it's just to. I hope this film also can give the can push people to try to listen to in a different way. No,
Mhm.
to listen to the diverse people, to the other, to the different societies. No,
Yeah.
listen to and try to understand before bringing solutions.
Yeah. Um, so how did your story evolve from day one to the very last day in post? And is your story what you thought it would be like when you started making this film, or how did it evolve for you and your team?
So at the beginning, we were not really aware of what should we do with this material, no? With this story. It could be also probably at the end a very short video, like of yeah, a short or something, just to push very quickly because of the campaign in Italy, no? Uh, but then I don't know in which way, but this story really involved us a lot. So for all the time, because after our first travel, we couldn't go anymore there because of the war. So we spent about 1 year desiring to go back, no? To go, what's going on, how people feel, what happened, and during this year we made some pitches. We present the project to some markets in Europe, and we understood that there was something, just a quid. There was something fascinating in this little story. So we try to push a bit more and try to produce a feature, a long documentary. We look for partners. We found some money, so we decided to go on, and but we didn't have a storyline. We just had few interviews and very beautiful images of people carrying water in the wells. So we had this problem: how to organize all this material in a storyline, and was hard because we didn't have really a main character, no, that do something, and you can follow this.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you're through. Yeah.
So we had kind of illumination, no, thinking about building the storyline as the long walk to the well, the long walk to the well together with the people that every day goes to the well and the animal. So we decided to use as key point of this narration the the going down to the water, no? And if you see it for the first 20 minutes, you talk about the wells, but you never see it. And you see people preparing, starting to walk, animals starting, leaving early in the morning. And you see before there is very little density of people and animal, no? Then you go on and on, and you see this density is growing because they come from very far, and as they approach to the wells, it starts to be a crowd. No? At the end, you arrive right on the wells, and you go down. When you go down, it's changing something. Then you arrive to the water. You have this kind of satisfaction of seeing this water, because sometimes also perhaps you get thirsty at the end, at the beginning of the film. So after that you have seen it, you can explain something more. And then we have a main character that is the old man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we decide that is the strongest character. So we decide to also to stay a bit more with him, to look at him, what he does, and then we have this idea of using the end of the drought with the rain arriving, because this is a kind of end of film that is a parallel storyline, because the rain is arriving now, but the problem is still there, no?
Yeah.
So this is not a really happy end. It's just a moment of relax.
Well, it's sort of like that's their cycle of life, you know, like,
Yeah.
what is it? The rain is twice a year, so they're waiting on the rain, kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah. And but to do that, we didn't have this image of the rains. So, and the rains didn't arrive because every day is every year is worst.
Yeah.
And and rain arrived later. So it was very bad because both the time we went to shoot there, we were waiting for the rain. The rain didn't arrive, and animals were starving, really starving, because they had nothing to eat. So it was really it touched a lot us, because we assisted to some clans that decided to migrate. They just took all the house, the animals, and they started a long, I don't know how long walk through the south. No, pardon, through the north, because there the rain comes from north and slowly go down. No, so they were starting to walk towards the clouds, but they were very weak. So, and then we didn't know what happened to them. I think they succeed. I hope they succeed in finding some water.
Yeah.
Yeah, but after the rain that you see in the film, there was a very long drought for about a couple of years.
Oh.
They didn't have really rain after that. Then after the things were going better after a while. But it's very touching to stay there and to feel the preoccupation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess like from what you said, your original outset to talk about like if water should be private or public, or you get to see like water is a necessity to survive. We need water to live. We need water more than anything else. So the idea that water could potentially become privatized is really alarming, I think, especially for modern people. I think we're a little bit spoiled, and and how we think that everything operates. And if things, was it Coca-Cola just bought all this land in Brazil in the Amazon to basically privatize the water there. And I think in the next couple of years, I think water will become like the next commodity.
Yeah, that's the big worry.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's very serious, it's very, like, your film is important to show like just how simple and basic and natural free water is. It's unimaginable to think about it in any other capacity, I think.
Yeah. In fact, I think that in this case, with this film project, we have we see something that is kind of different from. I mean, it's not Western people going to bring solution to Africans, no.
Yeah.
But perhaps is these people that give us an idea, no, about what we should demand, what we should ask, no.
Or it's just like basic human right. Like the fact that
Yeah.
water isn't a basic human right is very strange. It's weird to think about it that way. What was I going to say? I had a question. So I guess what is your, in adding to that, like what is your takeaway and your advice and like how you represented this indigenous culture in the film and how other filmmakers could and should represent indigenous communities in their films?
Well, is to face with the diversity is something very delicate, no? And I think every one of us has developed his own approach to the diversity. For me, I think that I really believe that meeting indigenous people must be made in their language. And I think that it's very important the choice of the intermediation, because that really make the difference. And every time that I had a good intermediation, I mean, people that not only know the language, no, but can share the values of the interviewed, and can relate their values with your values. That's very important. And then I think, for example, I like to look for people, authoritative people. No, I like to learn. No, I like to learn. So I don't want just to choose anybody. No, just somebody that can stay in the frame.
Yeah.
No, for for visual, for sometimes we choose like this our characters, no, for visual, for the come si dice, temperation, because the character, their I like to. It depends. It depends on the project, of course, but I like to be a person that is in a way depositary of the culture. No, so I love to meet with elders and let them give some of their ancient knowledge, no, the knowledge from the pastoralist people. I think this is something very important for the future, to preserve the knowledge of the pastoralists, because they are, I think historically they are among the few communities that has this great respect for the environment, for the land. So I think we need some of their knowledge. It will go lost, probably. It must be kept, no? Must be.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope so. The wisdom.
Yeah, the wisdom of pastoralist people. Yeah.
Going back to that, and going back to the wells, you talked a little bit about how the Borana, they run the wells, and all the clans together run the wells, and there are 14 working wells, correct?
Yeah, there. Yeah.
How many of those wells and how many clans did you go to?
Usually, each well belongs, let's say, to a clan. So they are almost 14 clans, but there are other clans that lost their wells.
Okay.
So they joined. They've been invited to use the water with other clans. But imagine that each well can host in one day more than 2,000 animals. So if you imagine, they are not open every day because they have some days of rest because the well must be clean, and the water must also stay calm to purify.
Yeah.
So I think they work 3 days and then they have one day off. But anyway, 14 wells, 6 days each for week, 2,000 animals for week. You imagine how big is the land that these wells serve. In fact, if you go away from there, this is a very little place where there are these wells. If you go from there during drought, I think you can walk also 300 kilometers before finding something, another water source to drink. So it's really survival to preserve this kind of.
I understand that you showed the protagonist of the film some of your footage. What was his reaction to seeing himself on camera?
No, I didn't succeed yet to make a proper screening of the film in the village, but I applied in many occasions to the Italian Embassy and Institute of Culture to bring the film there, but was not possible anytime. But the last time I went, I brought with me the computer, the laptop, so I showed the film to the few people I could gather around, and it was amazing, very amazing, because it was by night.
Mm-hmm.
I had a little igloo tent. It was just close to the house of the elder man, not the old wise man. So I invited him into the igloo, but there was a lot of people that wanted to come into the igloo too, like tens of people. They wanted to come and see, but it was not possible. So at the end, and then like hundreds of children, they surrounded the igloo because there was this light of the computer, blinking, like this, and the sound of the film. So the children were crazy. They wanted to see it at any cost. And so at the end, there were, I think, 5-6 people compressed into the igloo looking the film. I went out to control the children because they were almost destroying the tent because they were looking for an entrance. No,
yeah.
So it was amazing. But then after this screening, the wise man was very happy.
Yeah.
Was very happy because he thought, probably, I think he thought, when all we elders will be passed away, our the children of our children, the new generation, perhaps they can have the chance to watch this film. Yeah.
So what,
that was good for me to listen to that. Yeah.
so what to wrap it up, what do you hope is your takeaway from anyone who sees the film or the impact of the film? Like, what's your guttural feeling and hope for the path of this film?
This film already surprised me, thinking about his life after the end of the war, for many reasons. One, because it was used in Italy and was spread a lot among all these little associations that work on the public water demand. No?
Mm-hmm.
They organized tens and tens of screening of this film in all Italy, and it was made during the days of the referendum, because in Italy there was this referendum in 2011 where people were asked to choose about privatize or not the water.
Yeah.
And this film was screened a lot during this summer, a lot. And so for this, I'm very grateful to the Borana people.
Yeah.
Because they gave us at least a point of view that can be discussed. No?
Yeah.
Then I see that after the premiere 2011, last time the film has been awarded in a festival is last week.
Okay.
Imagine a little festival in the mountains in north of Italy.
Yeah.
They asked the screening copy, and then they invited us for the award.
Yeah.
So I think this is a strange film because it is never his due is never finished.
Okay.
He can always bring something too interesting to push a debate. I think there is not it cannot decay. No.
Yeah.
This is because it's a universal issue, but also is a universal the way is treated the issue.
Mm-hmm.
No? So what I think, I hope much people will look the film, and it will bring a little grain, no, of new ideas, of new different way of thinking, a little bit example of a different way of thinking in the mind of the audience. And I think that this film, together with the many other things, can help to contrast this kind of individualism that is growing a lot in Western countries. In Italy now is the time,
Yeah.
but in the States and in many places of the world.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. It was such a pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate your time. And if you haven't seen the documentary, all of you out there, you can watch it until the end of the month at the simarama.club.
Thank you very much.